Welcome back to Z-Speed, and thanks for tuning back in. Today we'll be swapping out the manual transmission fluid on this 2017 10th generation Honda Civic Si. So if you're interested in learning how to do that, just stay tuned. Before you start this job, you want to have 2 quarts of manual transmission fluid on hand, as well as a washer for the drain plug bolt. Now you can see I purchased mine from my local Honda dealer, but of course if you want to use aftermarket transmission fluid, you're more than welcome to do that. Just make sure you have 2 quarts on hand. Now before I get started, I like to clean the fill bolt area up on top of the engine off with some degreaser, and I've got some nice little orange blast degreaser here, and I'm going to spray that area down up top. I'm going to show you that a little closer in a minute, and then I'm going to use some compressed air after I wipe it all down and blow off any debris. That just keeps any small particles from getting into the fill port when you're going to refill your transmission fluid. So now that I've got all the dirt and debris cleared from the fill port area, I'm going to show you exactly where it is, right down in here. Pretty straight access there. If you use an extension, you don't actually have to remove anything to gain access. You can see it's a 3/8 inch extension, will fit right in there, and then we can break it loose. So make sure that you get any debris around from that area. You don't want any dirt or small rocks or pebbles or anything falling into that fill port. Now you can see I have a nice long extension to gain access to this bolt with a little 3/8 inch piece on the end, and now I'm going to go ahead and break it loose. 32 foot-pounds is what the torque specs are for this bolt, so you may have to tug on it just a little bit. So now that the drain plug's broken loose, I'm going to unthread it and then just ever so slightly thread it back in, so it'll allow just a little bit of air to come in through the fill port area. When we break the drain bolt loose down below, it'll aid in draining a little bit quicker. Once all that manual transmission fluid starts coming out, it'll help evacuate it a little bit faster. So now we're ready to get set up to drain the manual transmission fluid. You need to remove your undershroud that covers the engine. Now mine didn't actually come with an undershroud when I bought it, so I had to pick one of those up later. But yeah, make sure you go ahead and remove that. Get yourself a nice little drain pan under there. And one thing I didn't mention earlier is you need to drive your vehicle around for about 5 to 10 minutes. Make sure that manual transmission fluid is nice and warmed up, so it'll drain much quicker and more complete. So make sure you warm your engine up first before we start this procedure. So before we get started draining the manual transmission fluid, let me show you exactly where it is located on your manual transmission down here. Obviously, this is your manual transmission right here, and towards the back of it, back there is the drain plug. It's the only plug on here, so it's pretty easy to find, and it also takes a 3/8 inch socket extension, will fit right in there. But I'm going to recommend at this time that you use a 3/8 inch hex socket. They're a lot stronger than just a basic 3/8 inch extension, and I found out that there's a lot of torque on there. There's at least 32 foot-pounds of torque on this thing, and I ended up damaging my 3/8 inch extension right here and twisting the end of it, and I basically had to toss it. It was trashed after breaking it loose. I was able to break it loose, of course, but it took a toll and twisted the end of my 3/8 inch extension. So yeah, definitely pick up some hex drives. They're a lot stronger and they're very cheap. You know, you can get a set for like $7-8. Okay, now that we've got the bolt broken loose, we can easily get up here and just remove the screw and let her start draining here. It does have a washer on there, and we'll replace that when we're all done with the draining. But if you bought this car brand new, you should change your manual transmission fluid after 15,000 miles. That's the break-in period. After 15,000 miles, they recommend that you change it, and then thereafter, you're going to want to change your transmission fluid every every 30 to 50,000 miles. So you're going to want to change it every 30,000 if you kind of like to drive your car kind of hard, or let's say you take it to the track every now and then. You're definitely want to change it out every 30,000 miles. But if you're just cruising along, you never really get the RPMs up that high and you're babying it all the time, well, you could probably get away with about every 50,000 miles for a transmission fluid change. But I'm going to probably end up changing mine every 30,000. Okay, now that all the fluid's drained out, it's time to replace the drain plug, and you want to inspect your drain plug before you place it back in. Now you can see that my threads are looking really nice, no damage noted, but you just want to look at your threads, make sure there's nothing going on, make sure there's no debris or anything stuck in your threads. And I'm going to wipe my drain plug down and make sure it's nice and clean before I place it back in here. And of course, you're also going to want to replace the washer. Now, I picked my washers up from Honda, but you can probably pick them up from eBay or another parts store online if you want. But yeah, just make sure that you replace that washer, because we're going to be torquing this thing back down. You want a new washer before you torque it back down. So at this point, I'm going to hand thread this thing all the way in. You don't want to use any impact drivers or anything until you hand thread it all the way in until it stops. That'll keep you from cross threading your drain plug. So now you've got it hand tightened. You want to go ahead now and grab a torque wrench and torque this down to 32 foot-pounds. Okay, I did the same thing with the drain plug on top. I make sure it was nice and clean, the threads were okay. And at this point, we're going to need a nice extended funnel. It's going to need to be at least 12 to 14 inches long. I believe I picked this one up at Walmart. You could probably pick this up at any auto parts store, but it will not work unless you get an extended funnel. So make sure that you pick one of these up before you try to fill your manual transmission back up. So now that you've got the funnel in place, we can go ahead and add our 1.9 quarts. That's right, just 1.9 quarts, or just a hair under 2 quarts is what it takes to fill the Civic Si. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in both quarts, because 0.9 quarts is so close to 1 quart that it's not a huge problem, but I'm going to show you how to check the level down below on the transmission in a minute. But yeah, the neat thing about the Civic Si is, though, it has a helical limited slip differential that is built obviously into the transmission. So by changing out the manual transmission fluid, you're also servicing the differential fluid at the same time, because they're one and the same. So that is the neat part about the Si. You change one fluid out, you're changing them both, and now you see hand threading in the bolt on top, just like we did the drain bolt, to make sure that we don't cross thread. And now I'm going to go ahead and get out my torque wrench here, and we're going to torque this thing down to 32 foot-pounds, just like the drain bolt down below, which we also torqued down to 32 foot-pounds. Now that the fill bolts torque down, let's go underneath the car. I'm going to show you the 10mm bolt that you can check to see if you have excess transmission fluid or not enough transmission fluid. And we're going to crawl down in here and locate the drain plug once again, and then we're going to kind of go up the side of the transmission. I'm going to show you where the bolt is. So there is the drain plug, and you can see these 10mm bolts that hold the transmission together. Just follow these along the transmission here till we get to this area right here. You can see these 3 10mm bolts. It's the one in the center. If you break that loose and if you remove the bolt, excess fluid will flow out if you've got too much, and if you don't have enough, then nothing will come out. You'll know you had to add more. You have to add more transmission fluid. But your car has to be completely level to do that, and my car is on ramp, so I'm not going to be doing that right now. I'm okay with the 2 quarts versus a 1.9, but if you want to drain any excess out, just break that bolt loose. So if you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below and I'll get right back to you. And don't forget to give me a big old fat thumbs up if this video helped you out. And until next time, you know what to do. Just keep on repairing.